Hello everyone and welcome to today's WordStream webinar, The Power of AdWords, Making It Work for You. We're very excited to have you today and can't wait to hand over to Margot to get things started. My name is Callie and I'm here to just discuss a few little logistics before we can get straight to the fun. Following our presentation, you'll receive an email with today's recording and slides, so if you miss anything, don't worry, we'll be providing that for you. We'll also have time at the end for Q&A, so be sure to submit your questions through the chat box below, and we will get to as many as possible. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with WordStream, we are a search marketing software provider with free and paid tools to help you easily grow your AdWords and Bing campaigns. So if you're looking to master paid search or definitely just learn a little bit more about it, we recommend you checking out our PPC University at www.wordstream.com/learn. Now, during today's presentation, we definitely encourage you all to be social, so definitely join in the conversation using our hashtag PPCLife, and you can also chat with us at WordStream and our presenter today at Chappie Margot. And now I'm going to hand it over to Margot to get things started.
Hey everyone, welcome to the webinar and thank you so much for joining me today. I wanted to start off by just telling you guys a few random facts about myself. But first off, I work at WordStream. I've been here for about 2 years now, and I work in the marketing team focused heavily on paid search and as well as content marketing. So let's get into the fun stuff. The first one is that my childhood ambition was actually to work at McDonald's. So my parents are, very proud. But luckily I didn't end up at McDonald's. I ended up at WordStream. But there's a picture of myself as a little one, and you can see I was not that little. I was actually pretty heavy as a child. So we all like to joke about that in my family. Another fun fact about myself is that my dad actually grew up in the Azores, which is a group of islands off of the coast of Portugal. And I've been there about 5 or 6 times. I started going there at the age of 3, so it's pretty cool to have that background, I think. And lastly, my favorite one is that I have the most adorable nephew. My oldest sister had her first child last summer, and it's going to be his birthday on July 3rd, so we're really excited to celebrate that. All right, so let's get into the content of today's webinar. I'm guessing the reason that a lot of you are here is because you're struggling with paid search. Paid search isn't easy, and we can relate to this. We know that it's not easy all the time. We've all been there. So we're going to kind of address a lot of these concerns and the things that you struggle with in paid search today, and kind of how to deal with those and overcome them and just do a lot better.
Great, so before Margot gets too deep into the content, we wanted to learn a little bit more about you guys. So we want to see, what do you dislike about AdWords? Is it too time consuming for you? Is it a little bit too expensive? You don't really know where your ROI is going? Are you not getting results? Are you not sure that your business needs it? Or is it something else? Margot, what do you think everybody's going to pick? What do you think the majority is going to be?
I'm guessing a lot of people are going to pick that it's too expensive, because that's a lot of the issues that our clients have when coming on board. But we'll see. I think it could be a mix of a few things. So we'll see. I'm excited to see the results.
All right. Well, it looks like the majority are not getting results. So I think you might have been a little bit wrong there, Margot, with a close second of it being too expensive and too time consuming. So now I think it's time for Margot to share how you can get your results and why it's important to use it. So it's all yours, Margot.
Awesome. So yeah, a lot of these things, it looks like people are having a lot of similar concerns, not getting one of the main ones, and luckily that's one of our main focuses of today. So let's dive right in. So today we're actually going to go over 4 paid search myths. We're going to address these myths and really dive into them and see what you can do to kind of overcome these things and start believing in AdWords in a more profitable way for you. So the first myth is that Google AdWords is far too expensive. That was the one I was just talking about. A lot of people struggle with this because it is expensive, and it's really easy to kind of throw money into AdWords and not really know where it's going, not really see any results. So it kind of ties back to that. And the reality is that, yeah, it is expensive sometimes, but it's only expensive if you're not seeing results, right? So, you want to be seeing that ROI. You want to see that your money's going somewhere, and if it is, then it won't really seem that expensive because you're making profit off of it. So what can you do to kind of, overcome these challenges? The first thing that you want to do is really learn how to use it. And I know you're thinking, oh my gosh, this tip is so obvious. And I know you're thinking that, but when clients come on board to WordStream, one of the main things they struggle with is not knowing enough about paid search. And it's easy to kind of think you know more than you do, with paid search. A lot of clients come in and they'll rate themselves, a 9 out of 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 of how much they know. And then after spending, a few training calls with their rep, they realize, oh, wow, I'm actually more like a 4 or a 5. So really take the time and use resources to really learn about paid search. One that I'd really recommend is PPC University. This is actually part of the WordStream website. If you just go to wordstream.com, you'll see that PPC University link, and there's a lot of different courses that you can go through there. Another great resource, of course, is Google AdWords itself. They have a very thorough support section. If you're ambitious enough, I definitely recommend getting AdWords certified. And a great resource to do that is iPass Exam. So iPass Exam basically allows you to take some kind of mock-up tests and really dive into the nitty-gritty of paid search. And the major things that you want to focus on when learning about paid search, the first one is definitely account structure, in my opinion, because that's kind of the fundamentals of building out your account or restructuring your account if you have to do that. And then, of course, we have keyword research, so finding the right keywords that you want to bid on, thoroughly understanding how match types work, and negative keywords to block out that irrelevant traffic. And you want to dive into learning about the different bidding strategies that you have to take advantage of and figuring out which one is right for your business. And then understanding the difference between search and display is also extremely critical. So let's dive into a few things that might be the reason that you think AdWords is so expensive. One of them is you might be using really, really open match types. So if you're bidding on all broad keywords, all modified broad keywords, this usually comes down to people not really understanding how match types work. So kind of tying back to that point before, learn more about how match types work. And one thing I recommend doing if you feel like you're wasting money, go into your keywords tab and sort by match type and sort by cost to see which keywords are really costing you the most. You'll probably find that the keywords on broader match types are costing you a lot of money. And by saying this, I'm not telling you to stop bidding on broad keywords because they can be awesome for getting lots of impressions. They get a lot higher volume than more restrictive match types like exact and phrase. But what you should be doing is setting up negatives, looking at, let's move on to the next slide actually, looking at your search terms report. So this report, you'll actually go into AdWords. You can find this report under your keywords tab, and then you're going to see that little details box. So you can see on my screen here, I have a screenshot of it to the left, and you'll see details, and then in that drop-down, you'll see search terms. If you go to that report is essentially telling you what people are typing into Google to make your ads appear. So this gives you an idea of potential negative keywords that you might want to set up because you might be getting a lot of irrelevant searches coming in. And once you kind of figure that out and set up those necessary negative keywords, it's really going to help you control that spend. Another thing that I feel like a lot of our clients end up wasting money on is being on search and display at the same time. So a lot of the time when people set up their accounts or they take over an account, they may not realize that they were set up to target the search and display network simultaneously. It's this option called Search Network with Display Select. So it's really important to understand that search and display are totally different. Search is, of course, when you're going on Google, you're searching, and then you end up on the SERPs, the search engine results page, where we all spend a lot of time on, I'm sure. And that's the search network. Display is when you're sending those advertisements, across the web. So if you're maybe reading a news story on CNN and you see an ad, that could be from the display network. These are ads that pop up all over the web, so it's kind of a totally different strategy that you want to have in place when you're advertising on search versus display. So that's why it's really important to kind of keep these campaigns separately. And sometimes it's hard to track if you're combining those two campaigns where your money is going, and a lot of it is probably being eaten up by the display network, and you might not even realize that. And the next thing you want to do in order to kind of tackle that fear you have of AdWords being too expensive is spend time really determining and implementing a more realistic budget and bidding strategy. So you want to take the time, sit down, and take a look at your marketing budget, see how much you can allocate to AdWords each month. There might be certain months that are more important to your business. Maybe you're in travel industry and you know that people typically book travel during the summer and the winter. You might want to have a higher budget for those summer and winter months compared to the fall and spring. So take the time to really kind of figure out when the best time to spend in AdWords is for your particular business model. And also you want to allocate a realistic budget to each campaign. So the way that you set up your budget within AdWords is you set a daily budget for every single campaign. So try to figure out what you want to spend each month, then divide that between your different campaigns, of course allocating higher budgets to higher priority campaigns, maybe a product that outsells itself all the time, and then you divide that between the days of the month and figure out what your daily budget is. Another thing that's really important when you're determining bids for your keywords is make sure you're not bidding on keywords that are overly competitive, therefore overly expensive. I actually had a client once that set his daily budget to $10 a day, and he ended up spending his entire daily budget on one click because that keyword was worth $10 that click. And he called me and he was freaking out, like, what is going on? This is not okay. And I was like, well, take a look at how you set up your account. Like, you're not realistic, and you spent it all on one click because you're bidding on these really expensive keywords. So just, be smart about it and be realistic. Don't overcomplicate things. Just, spend some time really looking at your budget and what you can do. And another point I really want to drive home is that you really need to track spend like a hawk. So, like this guy in the image, like you want to be extremely aware of what's going on in your account. Maybe spend 10 minutes every morning just making sure that nothing crazy is going on. I know this tip might seem obvious, but a lot of marketers don't do this. They look at their account maybe once a month or once every couple weeks or whatever it is. You want to look at your account every single day and just make sure nothing crazy is going on. Like you could have added a broad keyword and it could be spending a crazy amount and you don't know about it for a week, and then your budget's eaten up. So just be aware of what's going on and really track your spend like a hawk. And also, I know you might think AdWords is super expensive, but just take a look at all of these industries and companies that are spending millions and millions of dollars on AdWords each month. So basically, my point is not that you should be spending millions of dollars because, of course, you're not Amazon, you're not State Farm. A lot of these companies are huge. But you should be not afraid to grow your spend if you are seeing a return. That's really key here, right? So if you're seeing a return, don't be afraid to add some spend and add a little fuel to the fire. All right, moving on to myth number 2. We hear this a lot that we have really great SEO, so why should we be doing paid search? If we're getting free clicks, what's the point of paying? And that argument totally makes sense, right? So the thing about SEO is that it's really not reliable. And this is the reason why I don't suggest just solely relying on SEO. And to be clear here, I'm not putting down SEO. I think it's really important to have an SEO strategy in place and maybe even a team dedicated to that. But you can't rely solely on it. And there's a lot of reasons for this. So let's go over some of those reasons. The first is that even if you're following all of those SEO best practices, the ones you read from Rand Fishkin or whatever it is, ranking isn't necessarily guaranteed. So there could be someone who's doing better, that Google kind of has the control in their hands, and they're just gonna, they're gonna do what they want to do. So even if you're following the best practices, you still might not be getting those top placements that you want to be. The problem is that you don't have that granular control that you have with paid search when you're doing SEO. And there's also crazy algorithm updates that happen. Like we all know, Panda and Penguin, a lot of companies were hit hard, and they were having insanely amazing SEO. Like most of their website traffic was coming from SEO, and then these algorithm updates come out, and their website traffic just tanks. So don't be a victim of that. Have a paid search strategy in place to make sure that doesn't happen to you. Also, if your competition's paying, they're going to beat you on the SERPs. So, of course, Google wants to make money, so they're going to favor people who are spending money over the organic results. Like, those paid ads are in the top placements for a reason. And even if you are getting ranked on the bottom of the page or the second page, the thing is most people only look at the top 3 to 4 to 5 results. When you get onto the second page, you're not going to really get the traffic that you want. So this is the reason that you really shouldn't rely solely on an SEO strategy. And this is a super interesting study. I was actually recently at HeroConf, which is a big paid search conference in Portland, Oregon. And I attended this presentation by John Gagnon. He's a Bing employee. He does a lot of these kind of data projects and presentations. And this is one case study that he did where he found that one of his clients was relying solely on SEO for ranking for his branded terms. So, the keywords that represent your company. So for us, it would be WordStream, of course. And once he started advertising, paying for his branded terms as well, he saw a 32% gain in clicks. So that is substantial, right? And this is really important to kind of take into consideration that you probably should be bidding on your branded terms. And I know this might sound crazy. You think, it's my brand, why should I bid on it? Well, the reason is that your competitors are probably bidding on your brand. I know, that's pretty deceiving, right? But they probably are. So, make sure you're bidding on these brand terms. It's really important. Another thing that you should be doing is focusing on, if you only have limited resources, focus on bidding on those high commercial intent keywords, so those bottom of the funnel keywords. So you can see we made this ice cream cone marketing funnel. I think most of you are probably pretty familiar with how the marketing funnel works. So of course the top of the funnel, where the ice cream is, those are the new people, the people that don't really have exposure to your brand. They don't even know if they want your products. And then of course, as you move down the funnel, you become closer to conversion. So focus on those money keywords, the keywords that are really bringing people in. For example, for us at WordStream, it would be something like buy paid search software, something of that nature, something that's really focused on your bottom line and the people that are more likely to convert quicker. So bid on those keywords to kind of better focus, where you're spending your money. All right, so let's move right on to myth number 3. Which is AdWords traffic doesn't convert. So this is the one in the poll that a lot of people are saying they're not getting results. And I'm sure a lot of results for you guys mean conversions. So lead, page form fill-outs or ebook downloads or direct purchases from your website, whatever it is that you consider a conversion, maybe even just traffic to your website. So let's go over how we can address this myth by doing better with paid search. So the reality is that, it's not that AdWords doesn't give you conversions or results. It's that you're probably doing it wrong. So I'm sorry to say this. I know you might be a little offended, but there are a lot of reasons that people aren't getting results, and it usually comes down to a few things that I want to go over. The first one is that you might be abusing dynamic keyword insertion. So I don't know if any of you heard the story about eBay in 2013. It's pretty hilarious. They were on, I think it was Harvard Business Review, a bunch of other news sites as well, picked up this story, and basically they were saying eBay has proved that AdWords doesn't work. And it was funny because the founder of our company, Larry Kim, looked into this a little bit, and he found out that eBay was totally misusing dynamic keyword insertion. So for those of you who don't know what this is, it's basically this parameter that you can set up to put those search queries into your headline, which makes everything more relevant. So it's not a bad strategy. It actually can work really well if you're doing it right. It's really tricky, so you need to be really careful. If you take a look at this example, this is from when eBay had that whole controversy around them. You can see that someone searched for the keyword baby on Google, and look at the ad that shows up. It says, buy a cheap baby on eBay. So, I mean, that's pretty hilarious, right? So clearly they're misusing this strategy, and they're bidding on keywords that are not relevant. They might be using broader match types, and then people are searching for something, and that ad is appearing. So for example, like if you were selling a flute in a music store, and you were bidding that on broad, when someone searches for like champagne flute, your ad could show up with champagne flute in the title, and then someone clicking on your ad, you're paying for that click, and they're leading to a music store. So it doesn't make sense at all. So just make sure if you are using dynamic keyword insertion, make sure you're doing it right, because it's easy to do it wrong. So just tread lightly there. And the next thing is, are you being relevant? So a lot of the times, people aren't paying enough attention to relevancy. Relevancy is super important. You need to make sure that your search queries, so the things that people are typing into Google, match the keywords that you're bidding on, and that those keywords in turn are within your ads and then reflected in your landing pages. So this is really so critical. It's insanely critical to succeeding with paid search. You need to be super relevant. Make sure your ad groups are really tightly themed with a small group of keywords that are reflected in your ad copy, therefore reflected in your landing pages. So take a look at that. You might be surprised that the way your account is set up is actually not as relevant as you thought it was. So really dig into that. Just to give you a little example here, I typed in on Google the other day, affordable baby gifts. That was my search query. It brought me to these advertisements, which were pretty relevant. The Amazon one had it right in the bag, affordable baby gifts. And I clicked on the first one from The Honest Company, and it led me to this landing page that wasn't too bad, but at the same time, it just says gifts at the top. It doesn't say baby gifts. It doesn't say affordable baby gifts. So you want to make sure that every query has a landing page that's relevant to it. I know this can be time-consuming and difficult to do, but just be as relevant as you possibly can, because that's what's really going to get people to convert, and that's what's really going to get you results in the end. Another reason you might not be getting results is, I hate to break it to you guys, but your landing pages might suck. So I know that's really mean to say, but it happens a lot. It happens all the time with a lot of the landing pages that I see on a regular basis. So, don't be afraid to, investigate your landing pages and, bring your ego down a little bit. You might have had a lot to do with building these landing pages and you're proud of them, but they might not be doing well. So just take kind of a reality check. One thing I actually recommend doing is grading your landing pages. So Callie actually just sent out a link to the chat. Take a look at that link, open it up, and throw one of your landing pages in it to see how you're doing. We have this incredible product here that actually scrapes through your page and will point out things that you could improve upon. So see what kind of grade you can get, test it out, and you might be surprised by the results in a good way or in a bad way. So just don't be afraid to kind of inspect those elements. Another thing I recommend doing is doing some A/B testing. Do it well. Test one element at a time compared to another one. Make sure you have a substantial set of data, of course, and see how that comes out, because you might find that by changing up your ad copy or your design elements, the way your page is laid out really does get you much better results. And lastly, you might not be seeing results because you might not be remarketing. So a lot of the times, a lot of businesses have longer sales cycles. Even e-commerce businesses can sometimes take a little bit more for people to convert. I really recommend that pretty much every business should be remarketing. For those of you not familiar with remarketing, I'm sure a lot of you are, but what it is it's when someone visits your site, you essentially cookie them, and then you follow them around the web with your advertisements. And you can get pretty granular with it. You can just set an all visitors campaign and target anyone who comes to your website with a more generic ad, or you can target people who have completed specific actions on your site, who have viewed specific pages, who have viewed specific pages in a specific order, so you can really kind of get pretty granular with your offers. Make sure you stay relevant with it, but definitely you should be remarketing to everyone who comes to your site in some form. So make sure you have a remarketing strategy in place, because oftentimes people are going to do a search for your ad, visit your site, and then kind of forget about it. But if they get that reinforcement, if you really follow them around the web a little bit, they're going to remember you, and they're likely going to come back and convert. So make sure you're trying this strategy in remarketing. All right, so let's dive into our last myth, which is managing an AdWords account is a full-time job. Well, the reality is this isn't actually a myth, so I'm kind of lying to you guys here about a lie, but it can be a full-time job, but the thing is it doesn't have to be. So I know that a lot of you are probably working at an agency, or perhaps you wear multiple hats. Paid search isn't your full 40-plus hour a week responsibility. So what can you do to get results without as much time as a full paid search employee would have? Well, there's a ton of things you can do to save time. The first thing I recommend doing is declutter your account. So, a while back, the strategy for AdWords was to bid on a bunch of long-tailed keywords, to have all these different match types, and to have this really kind of cluttered account. But now we're starting to see that most of your keywords are just sitting there and kind of doing nothing. So scrape through your account, sort through your keywords, look at keywords that haven't brought in any traffic impressions, you're bidding high enough but they're just not bringing anything in. Get rid of these keywords. Most of your account is probably just keywords that are not doing anything. Of course, make sure you run them for long enough to have accurate data on when you should pause those, but just make sure that you're getting rid of those useless keywords. Also, get rid of ads and landing pages that aren't doing anything as well, because you probably have some ads and landing pages that are just awful. So delete all those useless ads, keywords, and landing pages. That's really important. Another thing I recommend trying out is ad customizers. So for anyone who doesn't know, these are a new feature within AdWords, and they're essentially like a countdown feature that you can insert into your ad. It works similar to dynamic keyword insertion, where it just is automatic. And basically, if you're running a sale or a discount or some type of countdown, it can dynamically insert that into your advertisement, and it will count it down for you, so you don't have to go in and change your ad every day. This really helps because it creates that sense of urgency and really encourages people to click and convert. So try these out. They're really awesome, and we've found a lot of success with them here at WordStream. And lastly, you can also use scripts for reporting. So there's a lot of AdWords scripts out there that can really help with your kind of making your reporting more automated. So that's another option to kind of cut down on that manual reporting time. What else though? There has to be more, right? So AdWords management, it needs to be continuous and ongoing. And I know you're thinking, well, how does that save me time? But spend time creating a weekly, a bi-weekly, a monthly, and a quarterly workflow that's in line with your goals, your paid search goals specifically. And then just set aside that time to spend on AdWords, and then stop exactly when you plan to stop. Just have a plan in place, basically, of things you want to do every day, every week, every month, every quarter. Just be smart about it and spend time actually, creating a workflow for yourself. And the last thing I really, really recommend doing is using tools and automation. There are so many incredible tools out there that you can use. Of course, my favorite tool is the WordStream's 20-minute workweek. What it does is it basically scrapes through your account, and it points out several things that you can do every single week every single week to improve. So negatives that are wasting tons of spend that you might not be aware of, keywords that you should probably be bidding on, ads that need optimization, keywords that are costing you way too much, duplicate keywords in your account. So it really just scrapes your account on a weekly basis and provides, it points out these things that you should be doing to optimize. And it only takes 20 minutes, so it's super valuable. I definitely recommend trying it out. It's really helpful.
Great. Thanks, Margot. That was awesome. I especially loved your story about eBay and their misuse of keyword insertion. I think it kind of helps us all know that.
It's pretty funny, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of brings everybody back to reality that even a big corporation like that, can make mistakes. So it's kind of nice.
Exactly.
Now, for everyone on the line, I'd like to offer you some special offers today. We have a free demo of the WordStream Advisor. So Margot just spoke about our 20-minute work week, so we can have an AdWords certified consultant walk you through how that would work with your account and kind of show you where you can point out what you're doing well and also point out where you can make some improvements. There's also a one-on-one AdWords assessment. Again, this will be with an AdWords certified consultant, so they'll dig into your account and show you where you can improve and what you're really doing well in. And then if at this point you don't need any help with your PPC, just go ahead and select that as well. Now let's get to some questions for Margot. Margot, first we have, can you explain the difference between the search network and the display network?
Oh, sure, no problem. So the difference between the search and the display network, the search network is when you're on Google, so you're on the Google, Google.com, and you're typing in a search query, you're going to land on that search engine results page. So it's much more kind of like action-oriented. People, they're searching for something specific, whether it be a product or a question, and then they land on that search engine results page, which is the page that you probably see all the time because you probably do a lot of Google searches. The display network works a lot differently. It's basically advertisements that you see when just browsing the web. So whether you're on, a news site or you're shopping or whatever it is, it's 95% of the web. So you can see these ads on all different sites, but they're more of like banner advertisements, square advertisements, things like that. So they're kind of people are less conscious of them. They're not really looking for them, which is why search is a little bit more like user intent, like people know what they're searching for, if that makes sense. So I recommend probably starting with search if you're new to AdWords, and then display is usually used for like more brand awareness type campaigns, if that makes sense.
Great, absolutely. All right, next we have, you were talking about landing pages and their A/B tests. So how long should you run one, and then how do you know kind of what to test? Do you go with the images? Do you go with the copy? How do you assess which you should test first? Because I know you mentioned that you should only run one variable at a time. So how do you kind of figure out and strategize which one to attack first?
Sure, that's a great question. That's kind of a difficult question too, because it really depends on how your landing pages is set up and kind of what you're trying to accomplish and things of that nature. But definitely test like important elements like call to actions, maybe like different wordings within your call to action. So like whether it be subscribe now or sign up now, or different ways of wording your CTAs. That can be a really good element to kind of start off with. And then of course, different imagery. Like I know at WordStream we've tested, different images that we found like one works way better than the other, and you're like, well, that's kind of crazy, but it just happens. So there's lots of different things you can test. Do one test at a time, and I'd recommend running it just as long as you have like a substantial amount of traffic. So not like a specific time, but kind of the amount of traffic is more relevant. So that depends on kind of the size of your business as well. So I know it's not a super specific answer, but just be smart about it, look at your analytics, and then once you feel like you've gotten substantial results, then make a decision.
Great. Now this kind of piggybacks off of that in terms of running tests and whatnot, but how long should we run the keyword to deem them useless? And then the second part of that is how many impressions to clicks is relevant in kind of making that decision and kind of to turn it off?
That's a really good question. So typically what I recommend is running it until you have 30 clicks, just as like a baseline. If, on the other hand, a keyword has been running for a long time and it only has like 10 clicks, but it has, maybe like 1,000, 2,000 impressions, make sure you're bidding enough, of course. But if nothing's happening, then I would pause it. But definitely, I'd probably start off with a baseline of 30 clicks. And then, sorry, there was another part of that question as well.
How many impressions to no clicks to relevant? How many impressions to clicks is relevant to deem it useless?
Okay, so I think, if you have 30 clicks, you should have a good amount of impressions. But there's really no standard ratio that I recommend. But I think if you have 30 clicks, you should be able to make a decision from that.
Great. Now, what would you suggest the best way is to go about finding keywords that convert?
Sure, that's a great question. So there's a lot of keyword research tools out there. We have some free ones at WordStream if you want to try those out. There's also a good one in the AdWords software that you could use. It's called the Keyword Planner, and then you can search for different keywords and look for search volumes. You want to make sure the search volume is high enough and the keyword isn't too expensive. Another great thing that I like to do to look for keywords is search for queries on Google and see you'll type something in, right, and then you'll see kind of what Google fills out the query as, and that can give you some ideas of keywords that you might want to be bidding on. And then you can also kind of see if your competitors are showing up for those queries. Maybe they're bidding on those keywords to get an idea.
Great. Now, you kind of started off your presentation with talking a lot about the importance of structuring an account. So can you go a little bit deeper into that and kind of discussing what the best way to structure the account on the campaign and then the ad group level and the keyword level?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we're actually I just recently did an Ask the Experts, which is Dan Schuin, an employee at WordStream, is working on this project, and he had me run one of the episodes recently, and it's all about account structure. It should be on our blog pretty soon, so look out for that. But I'll also dive into it now, of course. Basically, the way you want to structure your account, there's no kind of perfect account structure. That's a question we get a lot here at WordStream. But what you want to do is make sure that you have campaigns that are around a theme. Usually a lot of clients like to structure them around products. And then, so let's say you're a tennis store, just to give you an example. If you're a tennis store, you might want to have a campaign all around tennis rackets, and then your ad groups are going to be around your specific models or your specific brands. You'll have an Adidas tennis rackets, maybe a male's tennis rackets, female's tennis rackets, different styles. And then within each ad group, you want to have a tightly knit group of keywords that are super relevant to that ad group's theme. So, for example, if we had Adidas tennis rackets, my keywords would be Adidas tennis racket, for summer or whatever it was. And then you want those keywords to match your advertisements. So the headline of your advertisement should have the keywords within that ad group within the ad, and then that ad needs to match the landing page. So I know that was kind of a long description, but we also have a really great blog post on that. If you want to send that out, Callie, I'm not sure if you have it on hand, but we have. I
don't have it on hand, but we can send it with a follow-up.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I just threw you under the bus there.
No worries. All right, so for your next question, how do you localize keywords to a very specific geographic area?
Oh, sure, good question. So I'm guessing you're trying to target specific regions. Maybe you're a location-based business. So what you can do is, of course, you can bid on keywords find a restaurant in Boston or whatever it is. You can bid on those actual locations that you're targeting. An even better way to do it is set up your campaigns and target specific geographic areas. So you can do that within the settings of within the settings tab of your campaign. And then from there, you'll see locations. And if you go to advanced, you'll actually see you can put in specific radiuses. So then that'll ensure that those keywords are actually targeting the specific radius that you're looking to go after.
Great. Now we've talked a lot about running different tests and how long and the length of them and whatnot, but when it comes to budgeting, so how long should you test your ads before you can know what type of budget you should have each day for those ads? I know that's probably dependent, but is there any kind of rhyme or reason behind that you could provide?
Sorry, can you say the question one more time?
Yep. How long should you test ads before you know what type of budget you should have for each day?
That's a good question. One thing that you can do, I would run the ads for, a substantial amount of time because it does take time to see results with paid search. So give it a few months, and then look at what you want to do is actually look at your ad schedule. So you can do that within the dimensions tab within AdWords, and you can actually sort that by time of day and by the day of the week to see which days and which times are performing best for you. So I'd dig into that data once you have enough volume, and then you can kind of make decisions from there when you want to run your ads, when you want to pause them.
Great. Now we have just a couple more for you. How do you obtain reporting for ROI on the keyword level and ad level?
Reporting for ROI on the keyword level and ad level. That's a good question. So we do have a great report within the WordStream software. It's called the Success Report, and you can look at your keywords on a monthly basis, and it also looks at your ads as well and kind of highlights ads that are performing well and ads that are underperforming. That's a really great reporting feature. There's also a lot of reports within AdWords that you could try out. And of course, I recommended, if you want to learn more about scripts, there's things that you can set up that will automate that reporting for you and kind of send those reports directly to you.
Great. Now here we have a question about competition. How can you tell what your competitors are bidding on?
Good question. So there's no direct way. You can't really see your competitor's account. Unfortunately, Google has that information marked as confidential, surprisingly enough. But there are ways that you can kind of get an idea of what your competitors are bidding on. One thing we have, I know I keep referring to WordStream tools because they're so great, but we do have a competitor tool that actually scrapes through your competitors' websites and kind of has a guess to what they might be bidding on, and it works pretty well. So I'd recommend trying that tool out. Another thing you can do, of course, is there's an ad preview tool where you can type in keywords and then see which ads appear, and that will give you an idea of kind of when your competitors' ads are appearing matched to which queries. So you can try doing that. But there's unfortunately no really easy way to spy on your competitors. What I recommend doing is just really focusing on having a solid strategy yourself and not worrying too much about. A lot of our clients spend kind of too much trying to figure out what their competitors are doing, and there's really no kind of easy way to do that aside from hacking their emails. And no, I'm just kidding. You can't do that. But yeah, that's a tough one.
Alrighty. Now, should low search volume keywords be used?
Absolutely not. Pause those. They're a waste of time. Like I said in that point earlier, cut out all of that junk. Low search volume keywords, typically I like to get rid of low quality score keywords unless they happen to be performing really well, which one-off situations that happens, not that often. But definitely if they're marked low search volume, you're not going to get anything out of them. So pause those keywords for sure.
Great. Now, I think that's all the time we have for today, so I'd like to thank Margot, first of all, for your amazing presentation and cluing us in on all the details that we need to know to make AdWords work for us.
No problem. Thanks for coming.
I'd also like to remind everybody that we will be sending out the recording and the slides and the blog post that Margot referenced. So So you guys can reference that, share it with colleagues, whatever you wish. And if you have any other questions, I know we didn't get to a couple, but definitely feel free to reach out to Margot on Twitter or just at WordStream on Twitter, and we'll get those answered for you. You can also reply to the email later on today if you want to continue the conversation. So again, thanks so much, and I hope you guys all have a great day.